So a while back we did an Instagram video of this brake line tubing that we use here, and people loved it. So I'm gonna go a little more in depth today. Common problem, we've got a 72 Chevelle, bad wheel cylinder, leaking. We did an inspection on this car, found that, leaking fluid. Replaced the wheel cylinder. We go to bleed the brakes on this thing, and I'm getting nothing out of this side. And I'm like, oh, well, that brake line, everything looks fine here, everything looks fine here. Come up here, and someone tried taking that flare nut off, and they just twisted the tube and closed it shut. So I'm gonna show you not only how to use this brake tubing, but how to cut it, how to flare it, the tools we use. We've got some neat stuff here. So I'm gonna measure out a piece, get it close, and we'll go from there. First thing, this tubing, it's very forgiving. It bends really easy. Big coil. We buy it in 100-foot rolls because it's cheaper that way. I'm gonna give myself a rough measurement here, and I'm just gonna kind of get close and stick that sucker up there. And then I'm gonna mark that guy a little long so I can cut it. We'll start there. Cut your tubing. You can use a regular old tubing cutter. I got this little mini tubing cutter here. It works fine. A while back, I got these tubing cutters. They're pretty sweet. They ratchet. So these are, of course, from our local Snap-on guy, which means they're pricey. Now, the cool thing about this tubing cutter is you can just kind of go around. But if I was in a tight spot and I was like in the car, you can ratchet it, right? So if you're just like up against a frame rail, you can do that much at a time. So it kind of works like a socket wrench, which is pretty sweet. So obviously here I don't really need the ratcheting mechanism of it, but cut that tubing. And you just keep tightening that nut and the wheel keeps cutting. There we go. So we cut our tubing. Now, before I go messing with this, another tool we recently got here is a tubing straightener. You can get these on Amazon. You can get them a lot of places. It's pretty cool for this stuff because if you start with a straight piece of tubing, it's easier to get really nice bends on it. So the way this works is you just take your kind of coiled, crusty piece of tubing, goes in these wheels, and it takes that crooked piece of tubing and just straightens it out. Give it a little more tension. So now if I'm doing a long run against a frame rail or anything like that, my tubing, the more you roll that in there, it just gets straighter and straighter. So when this stuff comes off a big coil, it's really kind of hard to deal with. So we just cut a bunch off, we'll straighten it out. Sometimes we'll have two guys and we'll do 10 feet of it. So the first thing I do before I deal with actually flaring it is we want to clean up this end here, because where we cut it, it's a little rough. So I've just got this little deburring tool I got from Eastwood a while ago. You can do the outside of it, and you just kind of twist it on there, deburr the outside, and then it's got a little cone in here that you can just kind of deburr the inside too. So clean all that stuff up. We're fancy here. We do a lot of brake lines. So we use a hydraulic flaring tool. A lot of at-home guys aren't going to want to do this, but if you're doing, a bunch of cars, maybe you and your buddies go in and buy this set. This set's from Master Cool. It does, single flares, double flares, bubble flares, metric flares, all kinds of stuff. So you can use it for brake lines, you can use it for fuel lines. You can also buy this tubing in different sizes. So this is 3/16. The tubing itself is nickel copper alloy. It's from a company called SUR&R. We actually buy it from Summit Racing. I'm sure you can get it other places. We like this brand because their tubing is a little higher quality than some of the off-brand stuff. It bends a little easier. It doesn't crack as easy when you make the flares. So we like that brand in particular. In fact, one of the things on my list to buy for the shop is they sell a hydraulic tool like this that's like a pistol grip, and it's really small. I was at SEMA last year, and they demoed the tool for me, and I was like, man, for doing something in the car and you're in a tight space and you want to get a good flare, you know, that's the tool to get. So on my list to buy this year for the shop. The way this tool works is you've got a die that holds your tubing, and then you've got a die that makes your initial push on it, and then there's a second operation which makes the flare part. So it's pretty easy. You just take a sip of your favorite beverage. Coffee's my thing. You take your tubing and you stick it in your die, and you want it sticking just a hair outside the die. So it's, you know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch outside of the die is what I found works the best for this tubing and this process. And there's teeth on there that grab it. So I'm gonna work that die. You want it good and tight in there. I wanna have everything set up pretty good. Set that straight, tighten her up. Get my other end of the die so the whole handle kind of releases on this guy. And then I'm gonna actually pull it back. And because I'm an old man, I need cheaters now. You wanna get that little tip lined up with that tubing and get it to slide right in there. So there you can see the importance of deburring the inside of that with that little cone. So I've got that guy set in there. Now I'm gonna turn that, and then we just pump it till it stops. We're good to go. And then we release that, and it pulls the die back. And you just keep that same guy in there. We keep it all set in there. And then you just take this guy out, and you put your cone in. And what this does is put that perfect flare on the inside. So the first process did the outside, and now the second process is gonna do the inside of that. So I'm just gonna tension that, close the valve, give it a few pumps, and then boom, I don't have to man in on that. And then we'll back our tool off. We'll release it, pull the eyes out, and there we have a perfect flare. I mean, that's textbook, right? So, don't be like the other guys. Make sure you put your nut on there before you flare the other end. So this guy will go right in there. She's set, she's ready to go into the actual car. Now I'm not gonna put this in, we're gonna do this Monday morning when the guys come in, but I wanted to give myself a refresh on this because I'm gonna have to do some teaching. We got a new tech starting on Monday. So I'm gonna have him do it, and I'm gonna teach him how to do it with the same tools. Now, kind of the old school way of bending is you would use one of these tools and you would kind of have to lock the tubing in there and, you know, do a 90-degree or whatever you wanted to do. It was kind of weird and fumbly, and I mean, we hardly ever use these anymore now, unless we're doing like stainless or something fancy. This tubing, I can just bend it with my fingers. So I can go over the car, I can show you how good this tubing bends. If we're replacing this line here, I can just hold it up to the block where I want to go, and I can just kind of use my hands and get my spot here, and then just go like that. I can stick it in there. I can kind of cheat that end of it, you know, and I can get this arc here pretty much perfect just with my hands. And I can make that bend a little sharper, and then I can straighten that out. And this is kind of half made for Monday. So like we just got to mark the other end of it, cut it, flare it. We'll be able to bleed this thing and get it back on the road.